The next sections of your paper article are the discussion and the conclusions and the limitations. So it's sort of three sections. Now, the discussions, again, you state your findings, but that's when you do sort of the compare and contrast based upon your literature review. So what did you find as compared to other studies? Did the other studies see what you saw? And again, this is where you're sort of embedding it and seeing where it fits into the literature, where it fits into the bigger understanding of the topic area. But again, you're comparing and contrasting. You're not just presenting your results again, but you're going right back up to that review and saying, we found with this population X happened, as opposed to Smith et al., who found that this happened. Sometimes you will confirm, sometimes you won't, what they found. But you need to go very much back to that lit review, all the things you thought you would find, and compare and contrast what you found in your study versus what they found in their studies. Again, it's embedding it, it's sort of differentiating it, it's showing if you found something new that we need to look at, or if you used a different population, did this matter? Those kinds of things. It's sort of embedding it in a body of knowledge. But it is not, I repeat, not just presenting your results again. It's a results compare and contrast. And this is why it was so important that you did that lit review, because this sort of helps explain what you found compared to what others have found. Now, the next section after that, and sometimes this section can be somewhat long. Again, it's sort of how you've done the lit review and what you found. If you confirm or deny. So you sort of have to go back through that lit review and talk about it in the sense of, here's what I said there, here's what we found, here's what the study said here, here's what I found. So it's sort of very methodical. Now, the next part, and it's a separate part, but you would do, is called the limitations. And some of this is sort of the limitations of actually what you found. Limitations would be, you got a low response rate. You only used a convenience sample. These are all things that would make it so that you couldn't sort of extrapolate out that external validity we talked about. You couldn't extrapolate outward to a bigger population. Some of the sampling issues, right? Selection issues we talked about when we talked about how we do methods and studies, right? And validity issues. This is where those come into play and you talk about them. It was at one site. This site was only urban versus suburban. We might have different results. You only got people who have lots of experience or people who had little experience responding. Again, that might be something that would change the results. Future studies might want to look at comparing these two groups. But again, it's sort of the limitations that are in your study. And some of the stuff you can't help. Maybe you only got older people responding. Maybe you got only younger people responding. Maybe you got only people from a certain location responding. Again, own that. It's not supposed to be a surprise. This again is sort of narrowing down your study, saying what we found sort of only applies to this. But then you can sort of say at the end, if we'd done other studies in the future and we compared rural versus urban, or we compared older and younger nurses, or we did an intervention with a different patient population, we might see something different. Okay, or if we administered the survey over a longer period of time, or if we followed people over a longer period of time, we could see if these results hold if we were doing an educational intervention. Okay, so those kinds of things need to be addressed under limitations. After limitations is something called conclusions. And conclusions is sort of the so what. Again, you're going to sort of say, this is what we found, but you're going to say what that implication is for nursing as a whole, for patient education as a whole, what it might indicate as far as a future direction we need to take, might indicate something that we need to be more educated about, might indicate a future way that we need to change how we educate nurses, change how we address stress as nurses experience, those kinds of things. This is where you sort of embed the so what and the how this impacts nursing. If you find from a chart review that we need to be better prepared for how we intervene and how we impact patients, then you need to say, this might indicate that in the future we need to be more aware of the multi-dimensional aspects of this patient's issues, or we need to bring in the family more because that has a bigger impact when we're doing some kind of intervention with health education. So this is where you talk about the implications, your results, but the implications they have on nursing. So you've done the methods part. You done the results part where it's just the facts, ma'am, correct? Just like presenting a patient. Then you do the discussion part where we do the compare and contrast what we found versus what the literature found. Then you talk about the limitations of your study. Was the sample too small? Was it one location versus another? Do we have less validity because of that? Do we have validity issues because of that? It's like a selection bias. Only people who have lots of experience, or only people who were not stressed took the survey, or only certain patients stayed in the study that were pretty healthy to begin with. Those kinds of things you need to talk about. Or we lost patients, we couldn't follow them throughout a certain amount of time. This is where you sort of own up to that. Again, it narrows down how we can apply the results, but you have to be very honest about that. Then we talk about conclusions. It's the so what do these results mean? You would state your results again, very, not all like in the results section, but sort of the big takeaways, what you found, what was significant, what wasn't, and then what impact does that have on the practice of nursing, the education of nurses. However, your study is talking about the impact that your research is going to have on patients, healthcare, the practice of nursing, the practice of nurse administration, the practice of urban health. Okay, that's your conclusion. They're all separate sections. I, again, will help you with all of this, give you lots of feedback because I know it's a lot, but you write them one as you go. And this class, you will do specific sections at specific times. And by that time you're done with that, and you might be doing some more in the next section of the class, the next last section of the class. This helps you with, you take these bits and pieces and you write an abstract. You take these bits and pieces and you add to them, and you add all that we've done all along, and then that's your final paper for your project. Again, like I said in the beginning, we do bits and bits and they build on each other, and then you have the finished product, which is going to be great.